I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do.
Hey, this is Zach Pasquarello. Good, how are you? What do you have going on? Yeah, so the staffing agency has been huge. I literally don't know how I would find drivers without it. I made a posting on Indeed. I didn't pay for it. I didn't put any money into advertising it. Maybe if I put $200 or $300 into advertising the job posting, I would find a driver. But then again, it's not guaranteed. So the staffing agency is incredibly expensive. The total cost comes out to be like $12,000. But they find a driver, they interview the driver, they screen the driver, they check his motor vehicle record, they drug test him. And then for the first 6 months, they handle all of your payroll, all of your workers' comp insurance. If he quits, if you fire him, no strings attached. Yeah, it's really expensive. But I mean, it's either that, and they don't charge you $12,000 right up front. They charge you a percentage of how much you pay him. So it comes out to be about $500 a week for 6 months. So it comes out to be about $12,000, give or take, depending on how much you end up paying him. Yeah, so basically I tell them every single Monday, I tell them how much he drove last week. And then they pay him on Friday accordingly. They pay him every single Friday. They send me a bill that week for how much I owe them. So they add on the extra $500, and then the following week I pay them. So the timing, it's like a 2-week time period where the driver actually drives, and then the driver gets paid, and then I pay the staffing agency. Yeah, so this is a company driver. So this is way different than just like some guy who's an owner-operator leasing on your company, because in that situation, he would pretty much provide everything he needs. But since I'm taking a more traditional route and I have like a company, so I'm hiring a company driver, it is my responsibility to basically provide everything for him. So you already touched on it, obviously the fuel card, and I just had the same fuel card that I partnered with my factoring company, and then I gave him just an additional card, a credit card, that I can freeze or unfreeze. I can set a limit on it. I can turn it off, turn it on. But basically, if he ever needs to buy diesel exhaust fluid inside the gas station, or oil, or antifreeze, or windshield wipers, or pay for a scale, pretty much pay for anything necessary for the truck, then he can swipe the credit card. And then I gave him very basic tools. So first of all, the truck came with a mattress. He's not responsible for providing his own mattress, but he is responsible for providing pretty much everything else in terms of like comfortable living. So I give him a refrigerator and a mattress, and then that's it. So if he wants, obviously he's gonna bring sheets, a pillow, maybe a microwave, maybe a coffee pot, maybe a TV, maybe an Xbox, maybe a PlayStation, maybe a laptop. All of those things he brings himself, if it's for his comfort or for his entertainment. But in terms of getting the job done, I give him a fridge, I give him a mattress, I give him a couple tools, like nothing crazy. I gave him a rubber mallet to check the tire pressure. I gave him bolt cutters just in case the lock on the trailer, he can't get off when he's at the shipper or the receiver. And I gave him, what else? A hammer, and then just like a very basic, I spent $100 on Amazon. I got like a basic toolkit, and it just has like screwdrivers and wrenches and pliers and just really basic stuff. Like, he's not going to do any major repairs over the road, but just in the event that he has to hammer something or unscrew something or tighten something, he has, basic tools to use. But that's it. That's it. That's all I gave my driver, and then obviously the truck and the trailer, and then he pretty much does everything else. Yeah, I have a dispatcher for my tractor trailer. He charges 6%. For the box truck, he charges 10%, but my dispatcher does everything. So he communicates with the driver on a daily basis. He obviously finds the loads in the beginning, negotiates with the broker, and then communicates with the driver, pick up time, pick up location, all the details he needs, and then drop off destination, time, all the details relevant to that. And then he also plans his route. So like if there's a route that he could take that would be more effective or more efficient, he tells him, go this way instead of that way. He tells him when and where to get fuel. So these are just kind of added benefits. Not all dispatchers might do this, but I've been working with this dispatcher for over a year now. So we've kind of built that relationship. But my dispatcher pretty much manages the day-to-day operations. And that's the goal. I want him to tell my driver to do everything. I don't want to be telling my driver what to do on a daily basis. That's not what I want, because I want to hire more drivers, get more trucks, and be more hands-off. With that being said, I do communicate with my driver on a weekly basis, just to touch base, hey, how's it going? Is everything okay? Do you need anything? Is the dispatcher treating you all right? Just to maintain that good relationship with my employees. But apart from that, seriously, day-to-day operations, I try to let my dispatcher handle. I had a flat tire last night, And my dispatcher called me. My driver didn't call me. My driver called my dispatcher first, which is awesome. And then my dispatcher called me. He's like, hey, just so you know, we got a flat tire. Don't worry about it. I'm already having him go to the truck stop to get it replaced. So he handled everything for me. I didn't have to call the truck stop. I didn't have to call the mechanic. I didn't have to talk to my driver. My dispatcher literally did everything, which is the goal. Like, I don't want to manage the day-to-day operations of the business. I want them to do it for me. So I do want to add one note. The repairs and maintenance on the road. I'm not that experienced with it. I'll just be honest with you up front. This is my first time that I had to replace a tire, and I spent $550 at the truck stop to get it replaced. Luckily, it wasn't roadside assistance. If it was roadside assistance, tack on an extra $200 to that bill. So I'm actually currently in the process of looking for maybe some roadside assistance. I think from what I've heard, you pay like 50 or 75 bucks a month to kind of like get into the program, and then they provide roadside assistance at a cheaper cost, but I don't really know a whole lot about that. So definitely, if I were you, look into a roadside assistance program, because luckily my driver was 5 miles away from a truck stop, but if he was on the highway further away from a truck stop or just kind of in the middle of nowhere, I would have been paying probably $200 or $300 extra for the roadside assistance. So I would look into that if I were you. I don't know anything about it. Hopefully I learn about it in the next week or two, because I think it'll maybe save you money. It's kind of like insurance. Like, you pay monthly into the policy, but then whenever you finally need it, it ends up saving you money. So I'm going to look into it. Yeah. I always recommend this. And this is just me because, I'm a numbers guy, I'm an accountant, so I always look at the numbers and the data, but I think it's been really helpful up until this point. It's your cost per mile. So you need to know that. At least you need to budget and try to forecast your cost per mile. Like, obviously your predictions are not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be a baseline. It's going to provide you a starting point. And I've got a cost per mile template that I use for my business. I can share it with you after this call. But yeah, basically it takes, like you said, the percentage that you're paying your dispatcher, the percent that you're paying your factoring company, how much you're paying for diesel, and you need to know miles per gallon. That way you can calculate, based on how many miles you drive, how much money you're going to spend on diesel. Insurance, the cost of your truck, I break all that stuff down. Tolls, so I factor in about 5 cents per mile for tolls. Maintenance, I factor about 20 cents per mile for maintenance. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, but that's just my projection per week, 5 or 20 cents per mile. And then I also just add in an extra $200 just for, general overhead, miscellaneous expenses, like your DAT load board subscription, your QuickBooks subscription. If you have like a phone bill or an internet bill, just like $200 randomly, just miscellaneous overhead expenses. You need to know that. You need to know your total cost, divide that by your total miles, and then you'll know your cost per mile. So it'll cost me $2.50 to run my truck. So with that knowledge, then you can go to brokers and dispatchers and say, hey, I never take a load for less than $2.50 a mile. Otherwise, I'm literally losing money. So once you know your cost, once you know your miles, then you can negotiate and you can work with brokers and dispatchers. Super, super important. I touch on it every single time I talk to people, and I think it's so important. If I could go back in time, I would have got a semi-truck from day one. The only reason I ever tell anybody to get a box truck is if you want to drive the truck yourself. Obviously, it makes a big difference. If you don't have a CDL, you can't get a semi-truck. But if you want to hire a driver, if you want to manage a trucking business, 1000%, I wish I would have got a semi-truck from day one instead of a box truck. Well, I can give you a good example. A massive mechanical breakdown that really hurt my business in February. I bought my truck in February, and then 2 weeks later, my driver was in Florida and the clutch went out. So the clutch had to be replaced, and it was multiple things. I first of all, the truck broke down, so I had to have a service call. That was $600 right off the bat. And then there's like a master cylinder and a slave cylinder, and that the mechanic originally thought those two things had to be replaced. So that was $2,000. So I'm already at $2,600. I thought the issue was fixed. My driver went to drive it, still wasn't working. The mechanic took another look at it and realized the entire clutch had to be replaced. So that was another $4,000. So I got my truck in February, ran it for 2 weeks. All of a sudden I was out of service for 4 or 5 days because of repairs, and I spent $6,000 on a major repair. So that's gonna be the worst thing. So drivers are going to quit and your trucks are going to break down. Those are like the two worst things that are going to happen. And then also, those are like things specific to your business. But then the other two terrible things that could happen kind of nationwide, industry-wide, are freight rates are going to go down and diesel's going to go up. So those 4 things have all happened to me in the past 2 months. So that's pretty heartbreaking. And I've pretty much broken even with my semi-truck over the past 4 months, even with all of those 4 major things happening. So the other thing I always recommend is plan for major repairs. So in the very beginning, as soon as you get your truck, just assume in the back of your mind, emotionally and financially and mentally prepare yourself to spend $5,000 to $10,000 on breakdowns in the first 2 to 3 months of having your truck. It's just it's gonna happen. So just mentally prepare for it. And second of all, prepare financially to not make any money for the first 6 months. So you will be in such a better place in 6 months if you go into this business assuming you're not going to make any money. I'm not saying you won't make any money, but I just want you to go in to the business with the assumption that you're not going to make any money. That way you can be financially prepared to sustain yourself with another business or another job, and you're not totally dependent on this trucking business to pay your bills. Because if you are, and if you have a major breakdown, then you're gonna lose all your money, and you're gonna not be able to pay your bills, and you're gonna have to sell your truck, and you're gonna have to give up. But if you have another source of income, if you have another job, if you have another business to support yourself, then you can learn from your mistakes. You can have breakdowns. You can have drivers who quit, and it's not gonna kill your business. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, to avoid all of the 4 worst things: drivers quit, breakdowns, diesel goes up, freight rates go down. In order to survive those 4 things from happening, you have to have money to support yourself outside of the trucking business. I just want to say everything that I just said is only applicable if you're not driving, if you're hiring a driver. If you're going to drive the truck, then none of that matters, because you're not going to quit. You're the driver. You're not going to quit. And you're gonna make plenty of money to pay for repairs, and it's gonna be your full-time job. So obviously you're not gonna have another source of income. So if you're driving the truck, disregard everything I just said and expect to make a lot of money in the first 3 to 6 months. You could easily make $1,000 a week. You can probably make closer to $2,000 a week if you drive your own truck. That's a box truck. Double that if you're driving a tractor trailer. Yeah, so if you're not going to drive the truck, then seriously just mentally and financially prepare to make $0 in the first 3 months. Because then whenever you make $1,000 a week, that's just extra money. You're just happy. But if you break even, you're like, wait a minute, how am I going to pay my bills? So it's just always better, manage your expectation. I do not have a CDL, no. Your driver does not necessarily need to be local. It helps, but I could hire a driver in Atlanta, fly him up to Pennsylvania. He could pick up my truck and then he can go to work. It would be less convenient, and then he would take the truck home to Atlanta every 2 weeks. I would just need to find a mechanic that I trust down in Atlanta, which would be a lot more difficult, but it's not impossible. I just had my driver drop the truck off at the diesel mechanic. I haven't had an issue with it yet. I've taken my tractor trailer to the mechanic twice now, and I just had my driver drop it off. I am getting ready for a DOT inspection. I just submitted all of my documents. Yeah, it's a 2016 International Pro Star. Yep, yeah, between 90 and 110,000 right now is the average price for a tractor trailer. Just a tractor, not the trailer, but just the tractor. And then trailers are like $40,000, if you could even find them. Like, a lot of people don't even have trailers for sale. I did IFTA on my own, and it was incredibly easy. You only need to know 2 things. You need to know how many miles you drove in which state, and you need to know how many gallons of fuel you pumped in which state. And you can get both of those things from your electronic login device and your fuel card. I thought it was difficult whenever I got started, but it's seriously so simple. You don't need to pay anybody to do it for you. All you need to do is you're going to file it with your state. So you just get connected with someone from your Department of Revenue. I actually had a field agent call me and ask me if I had any questions, and he helped me get set up with my online account. He helped me enter in all the information, and he told me how to do everything, and it was all free. So maybe you could pay someone to do it for you, or you can just figure it out on your own and save a couple $100, because you have to do it quarterly. So you don't do it once a year, you do it every single quarter. Heavy vehicle use tax, yep, that's once a year. It's like $500 or $600. I forget how much it is, but yeah, and that's with the IRS. That's with the federal government. So that's not state, that's with the IRS. It's called the Form 2290, Heavy Vehicle Use Tax.